Welcome back to the Keys to Success podcast. This is your host, Tilisa Stubbs. I know it's been a minute, you guys. I apologize, but Deba's been holding down the fort these last, 2 weeks, Deba?
2 weeks without you.
I missed you, girl. But I have my beautiful co host here, Deba Douglas. Deba, tell us what's going on.
Oh my gosh, what isn't going on? But I will tell you what, the weather is absolutely amazing today in Dallas, Texas, and I love it. The sun is shining. I took 2 walks outside, and I don't do cold weather, so you know it has to be beautiful.
I don't even want to hear it. I don't even want to hear it because I literally woke up this morning and there was like frost on my car. Like,
Oh
what?
no.
Like, why is there frost? Why do I have to scrape it with the scrapey thingy? Like,
Oh,
why is this my life right now? I'm just not understanding. So I don't want to hear it. I just
oh
don't. I
no.
just,
No. If we do that, like school needs to be shut down. No one's going anywhere in Dallas.
I mean, and I really don't want to hear anything from Joe because Joe's in sunny California,
Oh
like
yeah.
miles from the beach. So, anyways, since since that's my segue, let's go ahead and introduce our amazing guest, Jeff. Joe, I'm sorry, Jeff. Joe, you're gonna kill me. Joe Ramos. Joe is a real estate investor. He is in the short-term rental space. I know you've done some fix and flips. You've created financial freedom, and you started off like some people who just kind of start off doing some house hacking. And so I don't want to tell all of your story, but tell the people, who is Joe Ramos?
Well, you'll probably tell the stories better than me, but hey guys, I'm Joe. I live in Huntington Beach, California, and I became financially free through real estate. So I started back in 2008 when I was 21 years old. And honestly, it was just kind of more out of, I guess, necessity in a sense, because I was living with some friends and we were renting out a house, and I basically just, my tax guy is a friend of my parents, said, hey, you should probably try and invest in real estate. Now you're making a little bit more money. I was selling cars at the time. So I started, in the car business, and I was selling cars when I was 20 years old. And it was just kind of like, I don't know, that natural progression. And he's like, hey, you should probably buy a house, get some write-off. And so that's what I did. I bought a house in 2008. I put $6,500 down, did a FHA loan. And, honestly, like I was even talking to somebody the other day, and I couldn't even remember what the interest rate was. I had to look it up because a lot of people now are bringing up, oh my gosh, the interest rates and all this stuff. And that's the reason why I kind of like say this is I really didn't care. It just, the math made sense. I rented out 2 rooms. These guys both paid $500 a piece, and my payment was $1,350. And then after that, I was just like, oh my gosh, like this is cool. And so, I was very fortunate because my dad taught me a lot of stuff on how to like fix things and things like that. So he and I built a patio cover in the backyard and blah, blah, blah. We kind of like, they lived close by. So it was where I grew up. And then, from there, I was like, wow, this is cool. And so I just kind of kept on buying houses. I kind of got addicted to that. I was working a lot. I was working 10, 12, 14-hour days. So I didn't really have a lot of time to spend money. So I just kept on saving the money. And so I bought a house like a couple years later and then rented it out. And then I bought another house a couple years later. My whole goal was to like buy a couple where I grew up in Riverside. And then I wanted to move to the beach by the time I was 30. That was my plan, was to buy a house at the beach. So I bought this place here when I was 29, which was cool. And so that really kind of like helped out a lot, right? But not until I started partnering with people is when things started really taking off. And so I guess to kind of like get to like, what like Tilisa and I were, what we do is like raising private capital, is finding other people, like literally like the people next door to me, they are investing in one of my flips. Right. And then my best friend's dad, he and I have like 3 long-term rental properties in Georgia, and he is now invested in our fund as well as another flip that I'm doing. So I think, building trust and building like a proof of concept, what I did for myself really helped me out a lot to get people involved. And now they just get to sit back and do nothing, and I do all the work. So, I mean, I could keep on rambling, but I don't know if you want to throw some other questions at me. I'd be happy to kind of answer anything. I mean, I have short-term rentals, long-term rentals, multifamily, kind of done a little bit of everything, and got some, future goals. We're under contract on 4 properties in Jacksonville right now that are pad splits. So my business partner and I, with our company, we're doing some pad splits there. And so I'm really excited about those. A lot of people not too familiar, but I think it's going to be very lucrative. It's kind of like multifamily stuff. But yeah.
There's a lot to unpack, Deba.
Yeah.
Yes, there is a lot to unpack. It sounded like you figured out, okay, this is what I need to do. You started doing it, and it sounded like it started becoming even more funner. Once you met your goals, you were now able to bring other people along. And literally listening to you, you started smiling really bright when you started saying, well, now I can do my next door neighbor and my family. It makes it funner when you can bring other people along and really share what's going on with real estate and how powerful real estate is. But my biggest question, one, is what is pad sites? Is that what you said? And
Padflip. Yeah.
Padflip. What's that? And how does that in relation with your ROI in real estate?
So pad split is basically where you take a house and you keep the kitchen, you keep the bathrooms, but you take out like the living room, the dining room, and you turn it, let's say, like a 4-bedroom house into a 10-bedroom house. And then you rent out each room individually. So kind of going back to, I guess, my roots in the sense of doing the whole house hacking thing. And now pad split is kind of like Airbnb in the sense of a software company, and they vet the people, they vet the tenants, they place the tenants, they deal with the tenants. The only thing they don't really do is they don't deal with like any kind of maintenance issues that you have. But we have people there because we're doing a couple flips in Jacksonville. My business partner lives there, so that makes it a lot easier. And but let's say you got 10 bedrooms and you're renting out each bedroom for $800 a month. Now you're making $8,000 a month. Payment is say $2,000. Your overhead maybe $1,000 to $1,500. So there's plenty of room to get an investor invested, as well as you making money also. So our kind of like target person is basically $100,000, just even $100,000. You're making $1,000 a month, and then he and I split the difference or whatever, and we kind of deal with the rest of it, right? So there's one that we just got. And we have 4, and they're all kind of different situations. One is, 100,000. The other one's 75,000 for an investor. Lisa, she's actually in our group. And so she's putting in 75,000, but it's already running. And I mean, it's already ready to go. So it's already built out. They build out the walls and everything like that. And so now like the tenants just need to get placed, and it already appraised and everything's great, and we're good to go, so I mean, nothing's perfect, right? Kind of like I was talking, to Chris on his podcast, and not everything's hunky dory, right? Short-term rentals, I deal with those kind of silly people all the time. I have been telling some stories the last couple of days to some people because I've had some interesting situations, to say the least. But, I think in this case, like doing like pad split and how they're kind of vetting the people, and it's more of an affordable living type of deal. So you're really helping out a situation as well as, making some money in return. So I like that idea. Like I said, we haven't done one yet, but multifamily is a good thing. Like we have 2 multifamily in Ohio. One's an 8-unit apartment. One's a duplex. And so the way to like scale and actually really make money is a lot faster through a multifamily than a single family. And so what you're doing here is you're buying a single family property, so your insurance is less, your loan process is easier. You can actually get like a homeowner's insurance policy on it, and now you create it and turn it into like a pad split, which is like essentially a multifamily. But you want to put it like in a place where there's no HOA, there's a lot of public transportation, things like that, a lot of parking, and so yeah, I'm really excited to see where all this goes.
Wow, that is awesome. And you know what I love about that? That's a really a great opportunity if they're not in the Dallas, Texas metroplex. They probably are. I don't even know, but that's something to look into, because as the price of housing and living continues to increase, you're going to find out a lot of people are going to have to be sharing housing. And that's a great opportunity, especially people maybe moving into the area. They're not familiar with everything. Hey, you can get into a pad flip, you start learning and meeting new people, and then you start learning your way around and then decide where you want to move to.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, and that's like, it actually started in Atlanta, was like the first big spot, which makes sense. And it's very interesting because I do a lot of stuff in Atlanta as well. But Jacksonville is like the next big hub for it. And it's mainly like for people who are working and traveling, or like, let's say that, you're a travel nurse, or you're, somebody that works like 10, 12 hours a day. I mean, it's not going to be for everyone, right? But you stage the property, you have like a bed, you have a TV, and our goal is to make them nice. So they even have a refrigerator, maybe even a microwave. So that way we get people who want to stay as long as possible. And so it's for like these traveling workers or people who are working a lot. And, again, it's not going to be for families, not going to be for everybody, or students. So one of the properties we have is going to be near a university in Florida, in Jacksonville. And so I think that's perfect. I mean, because I think about myself, like when I was younger, right? You can only afford a certain amount. So you're paying $800 a month. You only have to put $200 down. Instead, like the average person on a studio apartment, it's $1,500 a month. And then you have to put $1,500 down. I mean, and then there's all this other process and stuff. Yeah. And, granted, you don't want to get the wrong people in there, but it's going to be something that is for certain people who are maybe not going to stay there very long. It's about 11 to 12 months on average that they're staying. So I don't know. I know we're like jumping ahead a lot, but this is like the newest thing that I really like. And I think could be, it's helping out, solving an affordability crisis, as well as, us, being able to pay our investors and make some money on the side as well.
Right. So. And let me ask you this, how are you purchasing these? Are you using just private lenders, or are you using a little bit of both, lending and private?
Okay. So most of the time, like all the deals that I've done since I don't work anymore have been DSCR loans. So I've done tons of different DSCR loans in tons of different ways. So a DSCR loan is a debt service loan. And so it's basically based on the property itself instead of you as a person. So yes, I have good credit. Yes, I have, experience. And that's one thing I learned going into like this mastermind that we're in, that Tilisa and I are in with Amy, is that I've had this experience already because I've done it for myself. And so I never really had the issue that other people had on, getting like having that experience. So like what these lenders look at, they look at, okay, how many deals have you done in the last 3 years? And then, how does the property perform? So, okay, you're buying the property for this. This is how much you're putting down, and you're going to rent it for X amount of dollars, right? So it has to rent over what your payment's going to be. And so that's how like I've bought in tons of properties, the 3 that I have in Georgia that are long-term rentals, the 2 that are in Florida that are short-term rentals, we bought under DSCR loans. And then now with these pad splits, they're DSCR. One of them is going to be cash, full cash from an investor. Actually someone in our group, John and Diana Delaney. And so we're buying that one cash, and we're actually going to burr it out. So we're buying it for $185. We're going to put in $15,000, and then it's, roughly like $280 is going to be the value, maybe $250. But even as long as we're at $250, we're going to be cool. Like they'll get all their money back. They're going to pay back their 401k. And now we're basically going to have a free house. It's not going to cash flow as well as some of the other ones, but who cares?
Right.
Because, we're going to have, $500 to $800 a month each. And it's just going to be a free house. And now we have built-in equity. It's going to gain equity. And so that's just one example, right? And then the other ones, all right, so we're looking at either long-term rents or we're looking at short-term rental rents. So it's like one of the properties, we can go to AirDNA and say, okay, it's going to rent out for $2,300 on average. Our payment's going to be $1,900. So cool, we're cash flowing. So then the lender says, great, all right, you're fine. And then another one, you can't use Airbnb or AirDNA rents. So it's got to be long-term rents. Okay, so we're buying this property. It's going to rent out for X amount of dollars. Great, at least we're cash flowing. So you got to put out 20%, whatever, so there's multiple different ways to do things. I mean, I could I could ramble on for days.
Yeah.
So,
I just love the fact, sorry, Tilisa, I keep jumping in. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Well, no, goodness gracious. What was my question? Joe, oh, that's what I was going to ask. So, Joe, as you're acquiring these properties, the long term, the short term, do you find that you're putting a sufficient amount aside every month for reserve, or do you just kind of make sure that you cash flow after just like the basic expenses and not really considering like your capex or repair and maintenance, vacancy? Kind of tell us about that a bit.
yeah, so I think it really depends on the type of property, but like, okay, just going into like what we're working on right now, right, and how we're raising private money from these people, and like what Jake and my business partner Jake and I have talked about is like, okay, let's say we only need 90,000 or 85,000 for the project, but we might as well just raise 100, just
Right.
just for like easy math right here, right? So let's raise 100. And if we don't use that money, which we probably won't, now we have an extra $10,000-$15,000 just kind of sitting there for those expenses. Because the way that it's going to work with people like this, if they're not a capital partner, they're not a joint venture partner, they don't have to worry about that stuff. We do, right? So if there are expenses that come up, so we might as well just raise a little bit more, so that way we don't have to worry about that stuff in the future, right? Because we've kind of learned this from our fund. We have a real estate fund that we've raised money for our short-term rentals in Florida, right? And so we've raised money. These people don't have to do anything. They literally just get 8% every quarter, and then another 7% at the end once the fund matures in 5 years. And what we've learned from that is because those are both short-term rentals, and there's things that have come up. And I mean, luckily we've been making decent money on them, and it's enough to pay for that stuff. But for us, we're not really making as much as we were expecting to, which is fine. We weren't really expecting to make as much at first because we're going to get the equity at the end. But that kind of sucks, right? So that's one thing that I would actually tell people in regards to like a real estate fund is like, kind of be careful and make sure like that you have like these extra dollars put aside for yourself. And that's what I think we've kind of learned with that project. And so going into these other projects, it's like, all right, cool. We're maybe not going to give as much interest away to these people, so that way at least we're getting paid, in the interim, because we're not greedy, but we want to make sure that we make money at the same time because our time is valuable, right?
Right.
So,
yeah.
I'm kind of spitballing here, but it's just like certain things that I think people should hear, that they don't always realize. Like everything's not always
as free and as like guaranteed, because real estate, let's be honest, I mean, I don't think a lot of people talk about it. There's a lot of risk involved, and you can lose a lot of money really fast. And then when you start bringing other partners in, they're expecting this return no matter what you tell them. So just being proactive in the front end. I did have one question. We have sometimes with our viewers, we have people that have not started yet. They're just kind of like dabbling around in real estate. What can you share with our viewers about jumping in and getting started with real estate? Any type of advice?
Well, I could tell you a lot about that, but I would say just do it. Obviously, taking a calculated risk is the best way to go. Like when I did it, it was obviously every time is going to be different, right? But I've told some of my friends like years and years and years, like I talked about this the other day actually on another podcast, and it's very relevant because one of my good friends, he's from where I'm from in Riverside, which is like 50 miles inland from the beach, and he's like, I don't want to live here. I don't want to like end up living here, so I don't want to buy a house here. So he didn't buy a house. Well, now he ended up moving out here where I live in Huntington Beach, and he's renting an apartment now and paying as much as I'm paying for my mortgage.
Wow.
But because I took action and I bought those properties, years ago, and I even told him like, just buy something, who cares, and he didn't. And so I think that's the thing that a lot of people don't realize. They keep on waiting for, rates to come down, prices to come down, whatever, as long as the math makes sense, right? So I want to tell people this example. My wife, before we got married, I showed her how to invest into real estate, and she did something different than I've even ever done. So she is a nurse. She qualified for whatever is like 750,000. And we live here in Huntington Beach. So she could have bought a condo or something like that, right? But she was already renting a place, and she was paying a really good deal because she's been there a while. So I said, well, it doesn't really make sense for you to buy a condo or, whatever, because your payment would not really outweigh things. So I said, either you buy something up in the mountains, like in Big Bear, where I have my short-term rental, or you buy something out of state. And so what we did was, or what she did, it wasn't even me, because this is before we got married. And she bought something, second home loan, 10% down, vacation home, even though she didn't own a property. So I found something up in Big Bear, and she bought it for $256,000.
Wow.
We only put 10% down, and then we turned it into a short-term rental. My dad and I went up there. Her brother helped out. My cousin helped out. We all kind of like pitched in and just, put in new floors, put in baseboards, then turn it into a short-term rental. And now the thing is worth over $100,000 more than what she paid for it. Now she has a write-off because, she's making decent money. So I think a lot of times people don't think about like the bigger picture. They just think about, the front end cost.
Yeah.
And so for her, she did her taxes this year. She was able to write off like $30,000. Now, okay, it wasn't making that much at first, but at least it's paying for itself. And then she loves it. She gets to go up there. I was just up there. Right. Actually, I just came back from that place because mine was rented out. And then we just threw a jacuzzi in there, and it's been doing really well. But she freaking loves the place, And so I think a lot of times people don't look at the bigger picture or look at different options, right? So if you look at things not from just one angle, but you look at them from multiple different angles, it can really like make a difference and make it easier for you to make a decision and just do that. I mean, don't be stupid about it. Make an educated decision. And so that's what I would tell people is like, there's no reason to wait if it's a good deal, especially like right now. I mean, there's so many good deals to be had.
Yeah.
And who cares? Just make these offers. Like that's what I've been doing is just making like, I don't want to be a butthead about it, but I want to make, offers on plenty of different places. And if people say no, no big deal. If they say yes, then hey, I know it's going to be a great deal because I've done my numbers, right?
Right.
So if you don't know how to do it, then maybe partner up with somebody that does know how to do it. I don't know. Hopefully that answers your question.
It does. I mean, I think that's
good.
Yeah, I think a lot of our viewers are on the fence. There's reasons. I mean, they do have some roadblocks. It could be credit. It could be, they don't have enough money. But all of those things, if you keep looking for the solution, you will find a way to get around it. A lot of people, they just stop at, oh, I don't have enough money. So they just stop thinking. But instead of saying I don't have, just say, hey, maybe if I learn this specialized knowledge, I can partner with someone that doesn't know the knowledge. And then I can bring my knowledge to the table and that can be used of value. So it's more or less thinking outside the box, being creative and trying new things.
Yeah. That's 100% true. And it's really interesting. Like you say the money thing, and like, especially for me, like I was even talking to a buddy when I was driving back today. And I, after the conference, like there's a lot of people, and it's not about gloating, but it's like, there's a lot of people who are like, oh, great, I want to invest this. And it's like, okay, calm down because,
right.
because you need to make sure that you're due diligent and finding the right deal, right?
Yes.
It's not just about having the money. So it's about partnering with the right people who know like what they're doing. Just like what you're saying, it's like, it's really, I was listening to an audio book the other day, and Ryan Pineda, he's talking about how once you actually get into this, the money is actually the easiest thing now.
The easiest.
The easiest.
Yeah.
And so it is kind of like, you're wait, this is weird, because when you're going through it, like that to you is like the biggest hurdle. But, if you can like prove yourself and perfect things, then the money's going to follow, right? So I think what people need to do is obviously, like, first of all, what I did was I did it for myself. And so for me, when it came to talking to other people and getting them to invest with me, it was kind of easy in the sense I already had a proven track record. Like I was talking, I said this the other day. I literally took my laptop next door to my neighbors when we were on our Zoom call, like Amy's Zoom call for the Raising Private Capital. And I was like, oh, I gotta go because my neighbors text me, said they're ready to talk because I had told them the night before, I got to talk to you guys. I got something you got to hear about. And they had actually been to one of my Airbnbs up in Big Bear because they helped me when I was traveling one time. And so I took my laptop over there. I showed them like all the different, like not all of them, but like a lot of different properties. I just pulled them up on Zillow. I said how, you know, I did this when I did this, I did this, I did this. I showed my Airbnb listings and blah, 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 blah. And then I said, I have, you know, a couple projects that I got going on. I'm about to go and I'm about to pay 10% to this hard money lender to do this flip in Atlanta. And so they said, oh, we like that one. We might be interested. And I said, oh, okay, great. So literally like after I left there, 10 minutes later, the husband comes to the door and he's like, okay, I think we're good. We'll get you 150,000. They brought me a check the next day. They brought me a check.
That is awesome. That is what it's about. That's
awesome. It like blew my mind. I was like, what? Like, okay, like, all right, cool. Like, but I was about to pay a hard money lender points and I was going to pay them, you know, whatever it was, 10%, 10.25, whatever. And so now that project actually, you know, has taken longer than I had expected, but they were even cool with that. They're like, just keep it longer because we want to make more money, you know? So
isn't that how it typically happens, Joe? Like typically when somebody lets you borrow their money, like they don't want you to give it back. And then they actually want to give you more because they want you to put more to work. Like that's typically how it works.
That's cool.
That's so true. Like it was like, he's like, yeah, keep it as long as you want. I'm like, okay, cool. But I just want to get that one done because I want to use their money for another project. But you know, not everything happens as smoothly as you'd like it to, right? You know, so but I think when you kind of like figure out like what you're doing or you do it for yourself, then it's a lot easier for people to invest in you and trust you and things like that. So like same thing like my buddy's dad. That's why I got started in Georgia was because my buddy moved out there like 4 or 5 years ago, told me about this little town. And then his dad ended up moving out there and then he wanted to get invested in real estate. And so we ended up partnering up. And that was actually like, I guess like my first private money lender in a sense, or one of my first business partners, you know? So it's like, you never know, you know? Yeah.
Wow. Amazing. Oh my gosh, Deba.
This was so good. And I mean, I think that a lot of the viewers may want to stay connected with you. So how can they connect and stay connected with you?
Well, I'm on Instagram and YouTube as a SoCal Traveler. I should have put it up on there, but SoCal Traveler. We have, you know, Landshark Financial Freedom podcast that Tilisa was on. I don't have the number in front of me, but or you can go and like to our website JSJR consult, and I'll give you the link, so if you want to throw it on there and people can find us on there, and so you can like see our whole website, see some of our Airbnbs, some of our flips and things like that. So yeah, or if anybody wants to just reach out and like shoot me a message, and I'd be happy to talk. We have a small like coaching program, but it's just more for like newbies or just kind of for fun for people who are serious, because like I said, you know, one of my friends that I told you about as an example, some people just don't take action, and it's not like we're trying to do it to make money. It's just more of like finding people who are serious, finding people who really want to, you know, learn or grow their wealth, you know. I mean, and again, it's not always about the money, right? Like what I was saying at our conference, it's, you know, don't get greedy, be due diligent, be smart, and have a purpose, right? So like right now, my purpose is, you know, over the next couple of years, you know, Shannon and I just got married in May, and we want to have kids over the next couple of years. And so my goal is to, you know, make enough money to displace our income. So I think, you know, what people need to realize is like, you need to go in and you have to have a direction. You have to have, you know, goals and aspirations, and set those goals. And that'll make it a lot easier for you to really like hit those things. Like my mom always would say, it's like, you know, goals are a dream with a deadline, right? And you have to have a deadline, otherwise you're not going to make it. So
I like that.
I'll
I
just
like
leave it at that.
Go ahead and drop that mic right there on that last one.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Boom.
much, Joe. It was an absolute pleasure having you on today. We will add all of your contact information in the show notes. Thank you so much, Tilisa. You want to end? You want to send us off?
Yes, Joe, brother, man, thank you so much. You are just a wealth of information. I just feel like every single time that we talk, you're just so inspiring, and you're just always taking action. And so I hope that this episode inspires those of you who are just getting started, or those of you who have been in the game, but you feel like you've been a little bit dormant, lying dormant. Get out there, take action, be encouraged, and thank you guys for tuning in. Always, always, always like, comment, and subscribe. We love to put out new content. And so if you guys have something that you guys want us to talk about, or you want to join us on the show as a speaker, as a guest, we'd love to have you guys on. So thank you so much, Deba, Joe. We will see you guys next week. Bye.
Thank you.